little fancy seats at the
across from them.
Before we get going,
so it had nothing to do with me.
I don't like her, but I don't.
Did we
So I
get
knew
hold of Susan?
I was kind of chuckling when I got this meeting
She's still.
because he really didn't know
That's all right.
what to do.
This is the second time.
Yeah. All right, Laura. Okay. Yeah.
Did you do the air?
But he came up and then he was talking to the council saying,
All right, everybody
oh,
ready?
they lost one.
Do it. Good evening. I'd like to call to order a City Council workshop meeting, February 6, 2019, approximately 6:30 p.m. to interview board applicants. Let's see, we don't have any now. All right, Dave. Oh, I mean, Steve. Come over here.
Good evening.
Oh, it's you. Since we all know you, mainly I want to ask you a couple of questions because I think one of the Sampson Island Board, I know you've been involved in. But when I talk with Grace, we have a terrible time, and I talk to Cassie, that we don't have enough members. And maybe it's because we don't, have some projects going on. But any idea on how we can revitalize the board or create projects out there for them?
Well, I think part of that, when I was liaison, I actually recruited one of the members, Dan Hamlin, who's still on there today, and actually goes out to the island a lot and does a lot of the work. So obviously that would be one of the things I try to do is recruit some other folks out there. You know, a lot of people use that, as we see, and, you know, we have cameras out there and we're taking pictures, so there's a lot of people out there that use it. Maybe that's another opportunity to post it or something out there where all the people are coming and say, hey, we're looking for volunteers to help with Sampson's Island that you are now visiting today. So there's probably a couple other avenues to do that. I know they're going to have the open houses actually this month, and that's probably another great place to probably push that, because, you know, all the people are going out to the island, people are coming to see that, so that's probably another great place to say, hey, we could use, you know, some volunteers to help with this, and I don't know if maybe because we call it a working group, it scares people away as opposed to having a regular meeting, but the working part of it is more of a, you know, if you can, you can, if you can't, you can't, but usually the open house is usually the big deal when most people are all there anyways. But I think there's a couple opportunities where we could probably spread the word to the audience that's actually using the island. That's probably the people you want there anyways, right? I mean, if they're using the island, you want those people to volunteer to help it. So I think there's a couple opportunities we could probably do some recruiting there to get some more people on there.
Great, thanks. Questions for?
Those are probably the people that are going to give you the best insight into what, you know, you can and can't, and what needs to be, and all of that stuff too. And I think, you know, when we get to the point where we have a kayak launch somewhere, we may find that there's more people utilizing it also. So that's going to be a positive. I'd go more often if I could just go someplace and put my kayak in the water.
And I agree. I mean, you know, we do have some scouts and stuff that go out there and use that. So again, probably need to leverage that. Again, those groups that are out there using that, whether it be scoutmasters or parents or something else that are actively going out there to try to reach them and say, hey, we could really use some volunteering. Like you said, your insight and suggestions. You people are coming out here to the island. What would you like to see better, more of what you're not seeing now? I was like, they got a vested interest in it. So to me, that's probably the best people to go after and get that help.
Mark?
Just the time that I've been liaison to that, and it's been a while, but when there were projects on board, those people were committed to those projects. Those type of folks just let's get her done type of thing. But they haven't had a project in a long time out there, and it has to be something other than just build a bench type of thing. It has to be something bigger than. I
agree, and I know we had some interest in, like I said, when we actually got some of the cameras and actually saw some of the wildlife and stuff out there. We got people that wanted to see the pictures. There's probably, like I said, probably needs a little more promotion of what's out there, what's available, reaching the right people that are out there. And I think if we get some of those people, I think you make a good point, is those are, what would you like to see out there?
Yeah.
You get a suggestion, and that's a project we could, take on and get that going. I think that would have like a snowball effect, You ask, what do we want? This is what we want. We could get people together, get them together, get that project started. Could be a very perpetual thing.
Historically, their budget expectations on a project were pretty small, too, so it wasn't any big hits to our budget in the city.
But Jerry Sansom was fine. He had more money than was applied for this year. If there's something that we can do out there and have
True, yeah.
Florida Inland
Yes.
Navigation help us with a project out there, I mean, the money is there.
wanna
All
give
we
it
have
away.
to do, yeah.
Yeah.
All we have to do is figure out what we want to do and put a bid in for it. and
I agree.
grant in
I
for it.
remember every time we go to Space Coast League of Cities, every time he announces
Yeah.
he's
I have
got
money,
money,
he's got money.
and you can't get people to
I mean,
put
what kind
enough
of
in the
condition, what kind of
project.
condition is the docking out there? Do you go out there?
No.
I mean, have you been out there recently?
Yeah, I don't dock there, but yeah, I've seen it, and they still look pretty good. I mean, we had a boat tied up to one forever. I don't know if it's still there.
There's one still on the south
South side.
side. Matter of fact, I saw somebody posted pictures on Facebook. They were out to Sampson's Island, I think, over the weekend, and they took a picture of the boat that's still sunk right there at the
The
dock.
dock.
Is that something that could be,
Well,
that money could be
Yeah,
used for?
maybe Steve, you kind of work on, that. Maybe we can
Right.
get Jerry to
The
help
county has to-
move the money.
The county has to do that. That's a derelict
Well, that's
boat. They
a,
don't, they don't,
Coast
unless
Guard.
it's a navigational, issue, the county's.
Yeah, if we could just get a storm and get it to roll it,
Yeah.
We can-
into the
we can
channel.
make it roll.
If you can make a roll.
just roll it,
channel,
because
we'll
it's,
have to
what
do
it's
that.
doing, it's actually leaning against the dock, that side. That's what I'm
Somehow
saying. It's
wouldn't it make
actually
it our-
leaning the other way.
Well, the
and
county's
being
getting
channel.
ready to pick all these boats up. They
Yeah.
just, yeah. They
This
have-
is something we probably, again,
Are they
I think we
aware-
said
are
it
they
before, you
aware
need to
that
be
it's
that
there?
loud voice.
Yeah, it's on the list for them to
Okay,
come get. yeah.
Okay, great.
Right.
All right, any other questions for?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
All right, did you look at the times when this meetings usually happen, and are you sure that you can make them? And why do you want to serve on one of our city boards?
Well, actually, I think that board is probably one that's a little underserved and doesn't get the attention that it needs. And I can say that from all my time as the liaison on there. It's not really getting the love it deserves. And so I'm hoping to maybe get on there and help that. Those times actually work great for me. Actually, the 6 o'clock is better than waiting till 7 o'clock, so I actually
So
like
you had a
that.
problem being on council, huh?
So, well, and to say that, I remember my time on a council, we could never get out of here before 8 o'clock at night. Now you guys are getting out early all the time. It's very enjoyable, so I look forward to it.
Good, all right, your time's up. I'll see ya. Lori, we'll be a lot nicer to you.
Lori.
Come on, Lori, you're up. Kinda, not really.
Yeah, we just beat up Steve.
Yeah, we just-
Because we love him.
Lori, thank you for applying, and I know most of us know you, but if you would just, introduce yourself, tell a little bit about yourself and why you picked the board you did, and we'll make it real short.
Okay. I'm Lori Winnick. I grew up in Merritt Island, have been in the area since 1972. I married Warren Winnick 4 years ago, and he lives in Satellite Beach, so he dragged me over here. And now I understand when people say they don't want to go over the bridge. And I work for the city of Cocoa Beach as an accountant, and it's interesting to me to see how cities work. And I think Satellite Beach is so far head and shoulders above everybody else, and I want to do my part to help the city reach all of its goals, so.
Lori, let me ask you something, because you heard the conversation about the Sampson Island board. You marked down a rec board. Is the Sampson Island Working Board something you'd be interested in also? Or
Yeah,
more
I
interested?
could do that. I'm not that familiar with it, but yes, I would definitely be interested in it.
Great. I was just curious. Okay, questions?
I was going to ask, what made you choose rec board and/or library board?
Honestly, because they met the least times. I do want to do my part, but I don't have a lot of extra time. I'm also involved with English for Conservation, which is a nonprofit, and I do a lot with that and want to continue to do that. But like I said, I still want to help the city if I can.
Okay. Well, Sampson's Island might work well with that, because it kind of ties in with
Yes,
the
it will.
water and all that. and-
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Rodney will like that.
And it could
Yeah,
tie
right.
into something you might be looking at in the future, right? So, and,
Yes.
for the gardening
Yes.
part of it, and that might be helpful to recruit there also.
Right.
Just thinking ahead there, maybe.
Right.
Okay.
And with Anglers for Conservation, our main program is Hook Kids on Fishing. So kids, and that's, when I grew up here on Merritt Island, I used to take my John boat out and go to the Spoil Islands and things like that. So that's like, you're 12, that's the place to be out there.
At some point in time, we're going to have access to the water, and we're going to be able to get kids out there.
Yes.
So that's going to be a great opportunity for us to be able to do that out there. I mean, Warren can tell you stories about when that was a barren piece of land, because I know Warren and Rodney, and there were a lot of people that were out there working when that was a barren piece of land after they cut everything down on it.
Right.
But it's a gem.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And it's right there.
Yeah.
Okay, any further questions, Mark? All right, that's it then.
That's it?
Thank you.
Okay.
And what we do is, it's an agenda item.
Okay.
You're more than welcome to stay for our council meeting if you want. You don't need to, and Grace will get a hold of you and let you know, okay?
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay,
Lori.
all righty. So we have no further applicant here to interview, so at this time, is there any further business with applicants on board and so forth? Okay, hearing none, we'll adjourn this portion, and in 15 minutes or so, we'll start the council meeting. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order a regular meeting of the City Council of Satellite Beach, February 6, 2019, approximately 7 p.m. Please join Councilwoman Gibson for a moment of silence and the pledge.
Please rise for a moment of silence. And for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The one time I don't pause.
There is no comment, I'm just saying.
I know, but he usually does it pause and you.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 3 is citizens' comments. This is for non-agenda items. Non-agenda items for citizens' comments. The mic's open.
Yeah, good evening. I'm Hal Martin and live 475 Kale Street, about 3 houses north of what's now called the Big Dig on Kale Street. I've missed the turn a couple times getting home. I haven't come around to the north of it. But what I haven't missed is the traffic. Kale Street being a through street from Cassia all the way to DeSoto. My neighbors and I, over the past number of years, have noticed quite a bit of speeding. And I mean double. We've seen cars that are doing at least 50 up and down Kale Street. There's a lot of children that walk to school, ride their bicycles to school, skateboards now. And what I'd like to ask the council to consider is, as they finish the project over here, adding a speed hump, not a speed bump, but a hump in Kale Street to possibly be a real deterrent to slowing cars that are exceeding the speed limit down to observing the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. So that's my comments for tonight. I hope that I've been to a number of different departments through the city and finally got referred here. The police department, Public Works, and code enforcement, and finally here. So hopefully we can get something done to slow the traffic down on Kale Street and keep it a little bit safer.
Thank you very much for your input.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted, I think it would be good if we could get PD to get out there and do some enforcement. That's typically how we would address these issues, that gets the best response. If we were going to do any type of installation of a speed hump or speed bump, we would need permission from every owner on that street, which is 1.5 feet for a street that long. And also, it's been our experience that when we put those types of infrastructure pieces in, we ended up having to remove them about a year later at the request of the same residents, because they tend to impede their traffic flow, and they're very noisy, especially with pickup trucks going over them. So that sometimes gets really annoying to the people who are right there, that live right next to the speed hump. So if you would indulge us for a little bit and let us see if we can do it through enforcement, and if it's still an issue, then we can meet back up and try to figure out another way to address it. But if you want to speak to me after the meeting, or this is the first I've heard of it, I would like to see if we could get some PD enforcement out on Kale and see if we can slow it down that way. There's some other alternatives that we can change, maybe do bulb outs at the intersections that skinny up the road a little bit, that are a little bit more effective than just speed humps. So we'll get with you. If at all possible, if we could get your contact information, and Commander Barrios is right there, and if you could do that, that way I can get a hold of you maybe tomorrow, and we'll talk about some alternatives. Okay?
Thank you. The mic is still open for non-agenda items.
I just want to make a quick comment on that. I can verify what he says. We do our Tuesday runs and it runs all the way down Kale, and I've almost been taken out by cars speeding, and so it's definitely an issue. And I've heard, could we put a stop sign in, like midway, and do like a weird
there's
stop
other
sign or
ways
something?
that we can address it, but when that's generally a first, solution that people think of, but there's a lot of better ways that we can address it, like putting in stop signs at popular intersections that may not be there now. So we'll get some enforcement out there right away, and then sit down with him and maybe do a tour with Public Works and find out what's the best way to address some of those issues. Because it is a through street, my street, it's like the same way, because it's real long. And so I completely understand that, issue.
Yeah.
Kind of on the same subject, real quick, when is the hole getting done?
That is a major water main project from the city of Melbourne, and it's one of the largest projects we have this year. We're lucky they got it done, though, because that will stop a lot of their constant, having to do small repairs on that main. Over the years, if anybody lives in that area, they know that there's a lot of small boil water notices that go along in that area all the time. So, yes, it's a pain, but it's really, a long time coming, so.
Okay, citizens' comments still open for non-agenda items.
My name is Matt Fleming, 1777 A1A, Satellite Beach. I just had two quick questions. One, is the city planning on doing anything to protect the natural reef that runs along our beach from being buried this year? And two, does the city have any plans to try to raise building heights in the city this year? Thank you.
Thank you. Floor is still open. I don't think we have anything to do with the beach. That's a county project.
Or state.
Or state. I think it's a county in this case, right? The next project, or is it? No. So, and as the building heights, that hasn't come to any of the boards. If it does, the process will start through the boards that we have for that, and there'll be public notice and so forth. But as of now, there's nothing on our plate for that. I'm not saying there wouldn't be in the future. I couldn't say it one way or the other. Mic's still open. Hearing no further comment, bring it back to the council. City council comments. Jody, would you like to start? Okay.
I want to just thank all of you that were able to be here on Friday for the field trip for Surfside Elementary School. That was a great morning. They loved it. They loved every bit of it. And I got to wear 3 hats. So as a mom and a teacher and a council member, I was really impressed at how many city people were here for them. And it was a really great morning. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. Mark?
I'll tell a little story, and then I'll ask a question to council. I had a chance to attend a fall prevention meeting today at Zahn. They have implemented a system for fall prevention, and the system involves radar. They set up radar in certain patient rooms, and if the patient falls, the radar picks it up. And the system is so detailed that if the fall occurs, that's one thing, they may have to determine the cause of the fall, but the system is so detailed, it can pick up your breaths, so it can determine if you stop breathing. It's a first of its kind system. It's come out of Norway, and they're implemented in 4 rooms in that particular facility. So I'm sitting at this meeting, and then up comes the city of Satellite Beach, came out of nowhere, which was great because that got me to ask a lot of questions. The system has also been set up so that it can be offered in individual homes. So if you've got a family who has somebody that's high risk of falling, you can implement this radar system in a particular home and keep track of your loved ones matched with a camera so that you can confirm if they have fallen or not. There's parts of the system that have been FDA approved, but the part of the system that's been totally FDA approved is being implemented in Zon. So I talked to one of the people afterwards, and I said, you mentioned Satellite Beach, we've done a lot, we're pretty progressive with our fire department, with our council and that sort of thing. Would you be available to come and just update the city of Satellite Beach on some of the technology that's out there simply because the subject of EMS came up and that sort of thing? And the man said he'd be happy to do that, and so my next question was, well, we exchanged emails and all that sort of thing, and I said I'd like to plug him into Courtney's email and see if we could arrange to have them come, and I said maybe 5 or 10 minute presentation on this. But it's very state-of-the-art. It's been started in Texas. It's being implemented primarily in facilities in Florida, but this is one of their really test sites, get it up and going type thing. They came over from Norway to get this whole thing set up. So my question to council is if we can arrange this, again, for our citizenry, because they asked me, would it be possible to do houses in Satellite Beach and that sort of thing, and I kind of gave them some suggestions, that sort of thing, but it would be kind of cool to have something this state-of-the-art at least introduced in Satellite Beach, first in Brevard County, that sort of thing. I have no financial interest in this. I have no future financial interest in this. I just think it'd be pretty cool to have it start here, just to have you guys hear about it, because it was kind of something they can pick up whether you're breathing or not. It's pretty cool. So would you guys be amenable if I proceed with that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, folks. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Well, I have to tell you, I was here Friday when the kids came, and it was the first time I'd ever done anything like that. It was really pretty interesting, and thank you for bringing them, because it was an education for me, as much as probably them too, but it was pretty neat. And then Saturday I did the Mayor's Walk to start off the Health First Mayor's Fitness Challenge, so that was pretty interesting too, and that's all I have.
Great, thank you.
So hold on, I can't breathe right now. So let's see. First thing was last week I was on a run, and my 4-mile loop takes me up DeSoto, and I just happened to be running, and I look over, and of course the manatees are there because it's a little bit cooler out, and I noticed there's some white tents set up as well, and idle curiosity and the need to actually get my breath and take a break from my run. I go over and check it out, and what's going on is FWC, SeaWorld, U of F, and USGS are all there, and they're taking the manatees or trying to catch them. They have all these people waiting in the water with like these weird fence things and nets, and basically I was able to witness them. They caught a manatee, they pulled it up onto and it was a medium-sized female, it was about 700 pounds. And they took her in and they did all her vitals. But what I thought was very intriguing and interesting, and we hope to get the information, is they're doing blood work. So they're going to be testing the blood for toxic chemicals and things like that. And they're weighing and pulled the contents of the stomach out because they're curious as to what they're eating since there is no seagrass. And so they had to put a tube down this poor thing's nose. And I mean, the thing was about this long. I just, wanted to gag the whole time watching it. And then they sucked on it like you're siphoning gas out of and pulled the contents out. So anyways, didn't want to be that person. Anyways, very cool, interesting thing to see, that science, like all the different science. Yes, it was not, I felt really bad for this animal. Anyways, it's all for science though, right? Taking one for the team, so.
Who drew that straw?
Yeah, who drew that straw? It was a woman too, so I was like, hey, she didn't look like she had good lungs. The other side of it was another woman was when they let the manatee go, the manatee, when you see these things start moving and the girth and the waves and when they can get going, well, it took one woman out. Our paramedics had to call the fire department to come check her out, and it happened to be her birthday. And I said, well, I mean, you'll remember this birthday for the rest of your life. How many people can say they were hurt by a manatee on their birthday? So there's that. So the other thing is we attended the Mayor's Fitness Challenge kickoff event on Sunday. Our mayor had a previous engagement, so I was able to speak in front of everybody and announce it was a 3K walk, so it was just under 2 miles, and we had a really good attendance. They said that ours was one of the best attended. Really fun group of people. Started off with Zumba, which this girl does not do, but it wasn't too bad. I don't think. I tried to talk Dominic. Dominic was there. I tried to talk him into it. He didn't do it. And then, of course, the kids coming to, that was a really cool thing. And the questions that they asked were very impressive. They really grasped, what we did here and asked questions. And we're talking elementary school children here. And it was very impressive. We have some good kids. The mayor handled himself well. He was able to bring himself to their level and answer. Anyways, I'm done. I'll stop talking now.
It was really easy for him to do that.
It was very easy for him, too.
I just, Monday morning, I was driving down the Soto Parkway, and our new exercise equipment is there. So I
Yes.
just wanted to make that statement.
Cool.
We have, it's waiting in boxes,
Ready to.
Great.
so that's great.
Hey, thank you. Field trip, I was here, it was really great. I think they great questions. They asked a lot about the history of the town and so forth, and they were really engaged. And all the department heads, thank you for your participation there. If anyone's missing gas out of their car, how do you know about that? Anyway, the kids were great, and, welcomed them here, and we had a good time. Any other comments? Okay, thank you. City Attorney?
Nothing.
Thank you. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. Coming up this weekend is the 5th Annual Locals Only Surf Fest at Pelican Beach Park. This will be an event for Brevard County surfers ranging from pro, longboard, ladies, and groms, and there will be 10 openings for people outside of the area to participate. New events this year include a skate contest, a 5K run, and Battle of the Hoods surf and rock climbing contest. My husband will be leading a hood, so just letting you know. I'm debating whether I should get T-shirts or not, but we'll see. The Satellite Beach Lions Club annual car show will be held on February 10th from 10 until 2 at the DRS Center, and registration begins at 9 a.m. And that includes raffles, door prizes, music, and vendors. And if you have an interest in that, you can contact Lance Smith. His number is in my report, or you can call the rec center, and they will also register you. Sampson's Island Annual Open House will be held on February 16th all day. And this is an ongoing event. Activities include conservation education, kayaking, bird watching, and we will provide free boat transportation from 9:30 to 2. However, you need to make reservations in advance by calling the rec department. In terms of city-related issues, we have received a Florida Firefighter Assistance Grant Program, and that grant is in the amount of $47,730.60 for 5 sets of personal protective equipment and 5 sets of self-contained breathing apparatus. So that's a good news for our capital improvements budget. We have submitted the appropriations request to the state of Florida for $7.3 million for canal dredging in partnership with Indian Harbor Beach. We have asked Representative Soroy and Senator Mayfield to sponsor the request, and I am getting questions from them already. So it looks like we're moving forward, and our lobbyist, Carrie Roth, our state lobbyist, is working that issue. So if you have any questions on that, we'll give you the details and copies of the request for when you go to Tallahassee again.
I'll be there next week.
We will be meeting with the School District Facilities Director and the principals of Holland Elementary, Delora Middle School, and Silent High School on possible changes to the school campuses that would better enable the city and the district to partner together for the benefit of our residents and students. And that also comes out of the fact that we will need to be redoing Jackson soon, and we would like to add some stormwater and bicycle facilities and, increase pedestrian safety along that street. As you know, we purchased the property at the end of Jackson, so we will, part of the stormwater vision there is to do a treatment train down Jackson and right before the outfall, right there at the end of Jackson.
Courtney, one question on that real quick. Where is the meeting going to be? Have we decided where that meeting is on the 11th? Is it here?
It's at the school.
Satellite? Okay, thank you.
When was that?
We will bring that to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
This Friday. It's not a public meeting though, so if both of you want, then I need to,
No, I won't be able to make it Friday.
Okay.
Is it
If there's any
Friday?
other council member that wants to attend that, let me
It's
know.
the 11th, I think.
And I will,
It's Monday.
okay,
Monday,
and
I
I
won't be able
will
to make it.
notice it if there's another council member that wants to go. So
Okay.
just let us know. It's hard to notice a meeting though at the school, so just letting you know, because, it's hard to have public access, at the school. Councilwoman Rozecki requested that the staff begin educating the public on the State Road A1A crosswalks and how to use them for safe crossings. So we did start that process with the police department Facebook page, and we're drafting a Beachcaster article to go in the Beachcaster. And I believe they've been out with enforcement. So, that process has started. And then also DOT will be putting in the lights, I believe at the end of March, so.
Yes,
So
thank
we
you.
should be-
I know that's going to be a really hard change for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And change is hard, but I think being proactive as we usually are and educating and just talking about it often, people are still not sure what to do, both as a driver and a pedestrian, so the more we can be talking about it, they're not going away, so we need to kind of change the way that we think, and just keep talking about it.
And we've had a lot of comments on those. I think, we were just designated third, Brevard County was third in the state for pedestrian accidents. I think in the state of Florida, right? Or nation or state? The country, nation, I'm sorry, the nation. So that's bad. And we put facilities in, the idea of that was a long time ago, so it was well before this, but those types of facilities are there for that purpose. What was interesting is Florida Today did an article on the fact that Brevard was the third and used the crosswalks in Satellite Beach as an introductory problem. And I thought it was interesting that facilities that were built to aid pedestrian safety was used as an introduction to the problems with that were used as an introduction to the fact that we are third in the nation for pedestrian accidents. So I had another item for you, and I can't remember what it was.
Can I ask
I
a
had to add
question
them.
on the crosswalks?
Yes.
Because one thing that bothered me about them is they're dangerous the way they're set up right now, in my feeling, because they're not functional yet. So what was their reasoning to not cover the signage up until it becomes functional?
Because in their mind, it is functional, that there's crosswalks all over the state of Florida without lights. And that is a state law, that if a pedestrian's in a crosswalk, doesn't matter if it's got lights or not, people have to stop. So,
Then I'm going to also make the effort. Again, like we've talked a lot, if you look at A1A from Sebastian Bridge to Cape Canaveral, 90% of it is 35 miles an hour. And not that people are going to go 35 if you put 35, but they're going to slow down from 45. And speed, I think, is a critical thing of safety. I drove it on a few weekends just to kind of take a good look at them. The number of people that cross the beach, they want safety. It was one of the number ones that was brought to us when we were doing, this project. And we had the meetings at the Schechter Center and so forth. People wanted to cross A1A safely. I think if you go back to the original questionnaires we put back in the 90s out to the citizens, they want to cross safe. So, I think we, continue pushing for that, the 35. I mean, tell me why Cocoa Beach has it. Tell me why Melbourne Beach has it.
well, I'll tell you what they say, and theirs is that Cocoa Beach has residential driveways on the road. And in those sections, that's where the speed is the lowest, and that's because there's driveway after driveway after driveway. So that's the reason why. And there's no, in parts of that area, there's no bi-directional turn lane there. So there's no way for a person who's turning to gradually slow down. They actually end up, in many ways, stopping in the road. So when you have a higher speed limit, that causes accidents. So when you get down to any Atlantic, you see it's a lot denser area, so driveway after driveway after driveway, you see the speed limit go down. So that's what their reasoning is. And we've asked for the speed limit to be reduced, I can't tell you how many times. So we can continue that, obviously, but that is their reasoning.
If you go to Cocoa Beach and you go up where the hotels are, it's 35. There's no residents there.
It's a lot denser area.
Oh.
I got something to add to that. So, I mean, if something's not working, so we've had 2 people get killed on our road in the last 6 months. So clearly something isn't right, so it either, FDOT needs to put up or shut up, I guess is the best statement here. And this is starting to really irritate me because you don't want to finish the sidewalks on the west side. You don't want to put stoplights in where they need to be. You don't want to lower the speed limit. You don't want to, you're giving us a hard time for lighting up the crosswalks. Well, I mean, how is safety their concern then? Because it doesn't seem to me like they have our safety in their mind. It's about, logistics, and quite frankly, they need to figure it out, because I don't want to see anyone else die. I mean, it could be my kids. My kids, I want them to be able to cross the road and go to the beach. I mean, I grew up on DeSoto, so I had a stoplight. So, I mean, I could go at any age, but I don't have that luxury right now. But I don't want my kids not to be able to go across the road and not be safe. So, I mean,
I think, too, when you go back to the studies that's been done in this town over the years, that's been, a big issue. It always comes out near the top. So, anyway, okay. Thank you.
We will, like I said, we'll talk to the TPO, we'll get the meeting scheduled with DOT and continue that, that advocacy. So staff was pretty upset, too. I think, this is like the 3rd study on sidewalks, to tell us that they don't have right-of-way for sidewalks. And so our idea was just get right-of-way then.
well, I know that the group of the Chabad, they offered up, and initially we told them not to do it. And I think now if they still want to go up and start, they were willing to go and knock on business doors and ask them if they'd be willing to allow that access to that land or to give that land away. And I think at this point, if they want to do it. And if they can come up and say, you know what, FDOT, here you go. We did your job for you. And these people, we pretty much got approval from everyone to say, you can take our land and put a sidewalk in. And there you go. So,
yeah, so
you're welcome.
And that's good, because DOT has a specific way of acquiring right-of-way. And when you acquire, they will not accept an easement. So you have to actually get the right-of-way, which would mean our jobs would be providing, for example, developers agreements or, zoning exceptions or variances for each property that would say that when the property owner gives up the frontage of their land, their setback isn't, so it's a lot more involved than saying, we give you permission to, put it, so,
yeah.
So we have to get them to agree that they're going to put it as a project in acquiring right-of-way and then putting funding to the right-of-way acquisition, and then doing the actual sidewalk construction. And that study is actually different than the one that they did for us for this one particular area. They have one going from 192 to Pineda to do a gap fill for both Indian Harbor Beach and the Atlantic and us, and that's not completed yet. So that type of study, when that's done, will go to a cost estimate and then go to right-of-way and then go, but that's a process. That's like a 4 to 5 year down the road endeavor. And that's where the TPO comes in and starts advocating to get that moved up on the list. So that's why, so that's the longer term thing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I'll be pushing for that quite a bit.
Any further?
I've forgotten.
If you remember at some point, we'll take it. Any questions for the city manager? Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 7. That's the page here. Discuss, take action on ordinance 1170. Jim?
Ordinance number 1170, an ordinance of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida,
updating the 5-year schedule of capital improvements of the city's comprehensive plan as mandated by Florida Statute Section 163.3177 sub 3 sub B, providing a conflicts clause and severability clause, providing an effective date. It's the first reading of ordinance number 1170.
Thank you.
Mayor, Jim LaRue for the record. Just to let you know, every year we go through this process. As you do your budget, you do the capital improvements program projects, and we have to make sure that it's consistent with the comp plan. The only difference between these projects is that for the comprehensive plan, you have certain mandatory levels of service that we will pick those out, and other projects would not, for equipment and those things, would not appear. So that's why it's kind of a scaled down version of what you've already done, and it updates the comp plan. And when they review different policies that we have, then we're updated every year. Now, Courtney and I remember in the old days you had to do a comp plan amendment. Now you get to do it by an ordinance. So that's why you get to see me once a year anyway. So that's what it is.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
It does come with a recommendation, Mayor, from your planning advisory board.
Great. Any questions? Okay, at this time, open up for public comment on this agenda item. Floor is open. Hearing none, back to council. Council comments from motion.
I'll make a motion to accept, are we accepting the capital improvement element 5-year schedule or submitting it?
Approving first
Approving
reading.
ordinance 1170.
Approving the ordinance.
Okay, so we're approving ordinance 1170
On first
on
reading.
first reading. I'll make
Second.
that motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Councilwoman Gibson. Courtney, all these capital improvements and so forth that are budget good and our ability to do them during the
They're
year?
already in your budget, yes,
Right.
sir. Yeah. So we only, and you don't see things like equipment and stuff like that because it doesn't have anything to do with, facilities. So it's, in this particular update, we focus on things that are recreation related or provide some type of capacity improvement to the facility itself. And so that's why it's limited to these smaller list of things.
Water, sewer, recreation, that kind
Okay.
of stuff.
Roads, yeah.
Could I ask one question? Could you explain to me the Brevard Public Schools portion of it?
So
Just the
You wanna
central
do that?
area, elementary school and south area?
So when you do a capital facilities update in the comprehensive plan, you have to include all facilities. So it includes any infrastructure improvements at the schools. So you have to include the school board as well. So it's their improvements that are in their plans, and we have to just incorporate them in ours.
Not necessarily related to our city, just in their
No,
plans
no.
in general?
That's correct. Just,
Right, because I'm looking, right.
well,
It's a county
It's a county,
aspect.
yeah.
It's a work plan that they have, like we have,
Okay.
as far as things. And so it's not that we're hostage, but we just incorporate what they have as far as their work plan and their capital improvement project.
for only their school district capacity improvements for the area that we're in, like impact fee area that we're in. So like, when they do a new school, for example, a lot of times they have to redistrict and shift, so it's impossible to just say it's going to affect this one, you know what I mean? So that's why you include your whole
Thank you.
area.
They have a broader area than
Right.
just the city.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Any further, council, before we open up the public? This time, open up public comment on ordinance 1170. Hearing no public comment, portion, bring it back to council. Further, council? Trace?
Councilwoman Rozicki?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brimer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes.
Thank you, Mayor
Thank you
and
very much.
council. And after the second public hearing on this, it will just be incorporated in the comp plan. We do not have to submit it to anybody.
Okay.
Great.
Good deal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Good to see everybody.
Nice to see you. Moving on to agenda item 8, FY 2017/18 third quarter budget report. Brittany?
obviously seen there was a typo on the agenda item, and I apologize for that. It should be 2018, 2019 first quarter budget, so. So briefly, as in your package, you guys have all the detail of all the revenues and expenditures from the general fund all the way down to the health insurance fund. So I just put some quick slides together to kind of overview that, and then, of course, if there's any questions in regard to the detail, we can definitely take a look at that. So just to give a quick overview of the general fund so far, and keep in mind this is from October to December, we'll do this on a quarterly basis to kind of keep updated how things are going. So far, we've received $7,912,805 from general fund revenues, which is 62% of the budget. The expenditures are $4,063,863, which is 33% of the budget. Kind of broke it out into the pie chart to kind of see the different funds that we have, the different departments inside the general fund and how their expenditures kind of play out. But currently, right now, it does look like we're going to have some additional revenue outside of the expenditures, so we'll be able to put some money into the fund balance this year, into the reserves, which will be wonderful.
Yes, that is always good news.
The small community service funds, I just broke it down to show you the revenues and expenditures so far for the recycling fund. We received about $2,400 and spent a little over $11,000. Sampson's Island, it's really just bank interest is all some of these funds get, and don't have obviously a lot of expenditures. The beautification fund does some fundraising expenditures and revenues, so that's where theirs comes in. The ALS trust fund will be changing a little bit, as you may remember that you approved to have the fire department be able to use some of those funds to do some things that they need to do over there. So that'll be changing a little bit in the next quarter here. The Community Service Trust Fund, which is the police departments, they try to keep it pretty well even. They've got some donations that come in, and then they spend a little bit of money to offset that. And then, of course, the Recreation Trust is the same way. It's very little revenue with just interest, and then they do some fundraising expenditures as well, and that's what that is. The stormwater fund, so far the revenues, we've got 80% of the budget, $812,213, and we've spent 33% of the budget at $337,542. This fund is the fund that's taking care of the DeSoto Pond, so we do have some more expenditures that are going to be coming through as that project is finally wrapping up. The other side of this too is that we did get some, we're approved for grants for that. Those were budgeted last year, so those revenues we'll actually be able to see this year because we didn't see them last year yet. So we should be actually, I think this next quarter at the end of March, we'll be finalizing everything and asking for reimbursements for that. So that will be helpful to be able to start the stormwater master plan projects and start funding those as well. The Community Redevelopment Agency Fund, year-to-date revenues are $2,022,797. It's 100% of the budget. We've got all the revenues in that fund that we're going to get. We've only spent 23% of the budget, $483,503. As you remember in the CRA meeting earlier, we talked about the Civic Center Phase 2 is going to be coming down the line, so we'll be expending those monies this year for that, as well as the additional A1A streetscape to finish up and get completed as well. The Capital Assets Fund, total revenue is $160,024, which is 15% of the budget, and then almost $350,000, which is 33% of the budget. Just to kind of keep informed with the capital assets budget, it's one that is always the one that gets the surprises and the hits the hardest. We did have the 2 air conditioners that were $30,000 that were the emergency things that we had to take care of. We are beginning the plans for the Public Works building and the fire station building, so we'll start seeing that. The skate park is getting cameras installed very soon. And then we're in the process. We do have 2 of the vehicles that showed up through Enterprise for the Public Works. We still have 2 more to come. And then we're working on a fire department plan for vehicles for them as well. So the health insurance fund is going to kind of look awkward this year because we moved from a self-insured fund to a fully insured fund. So we're not really using this fund anymore, but we're going to leave it alone because there are going to be some claims that are still coming through that we're going to pay out of it that were from last fiscal year. So far we've spent almost $160,000 out of that fund, but no revenue is going to come into that fund at this point because all that's budgeted in your departments in the general fund, and that's where it comes in and out of at this point. And that's it.
Question on the funds that we do not use. where are they going to go? Back into general funds or reserve?
Yeah, if we don't use them, it'll go back to our reserves.
In the health insurance fund? Yeah, it will end up really depending on what we decide to do with health insurance next year, how it plays out. If we decide to go back to his self-insured plan, then obviously we'll leave him there for that. Or if, you know, we decide to close the fund, then yeah, we'll move him back into the general fund. So, just a couple of quick comments, because I'm sure as you guys went through the detail of this, some of the percentages of the budgets looked a little kind of funny, a little crazy that we're only 3 months in, and some of these are a little crazy. So the departments understand the vacation and sick leave, it is buyback. They get to buy back once a year in December. So that's at 100% and we're done. Like there's no more money that comes out of that line item because it only happens in December. The holiday pay is police and fire. They get paid twice a year for holiday pays, once in November and once in May. So that's why it's around that 45 to 50% currently, and then we'll do another one in May, which will make that one 100%. So all the rest of the holidays for all the other employees, as well as the vacation sick time that actually employees take, that's all budgeted up into your salaries and wages line item. So there's no concern to be about that. We do know that the overtime, luckily, the department heads know that if they're using overtime, it's because they need to hire somebody because they're missing somebody, and so luckily the salaries and wages won't go, so they should balance out in the end. I mean, honestly, looking at each department in the dark italics at the end shows you that everybody's below, for the most part, below that 25%, which is where we want to be in 3 months of the budget, at 25% for each department.
Brittany, thank you. Questions from council? Okay. Thank you. I'll open up for public comment on the third quarter budget report. Hearing no public comment, back to council. Any further? Okay. And this is, there's no action required. This is for information purposes. Okay. Brittany, your staff, thank you very much.
Thanks, Brittany.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 9. It's proposed council agenda items, God bless you, for February 20th. Please take a look at them, and if there's anything you would like added to it, please see the staff. Okay. Moving on to agenda item 10, appointments to boards.
I had a question.
I got one question too while you're looking there.
Well, go ahead.
The Sampson Island Working Board, should it just be the Sampson Island Board for the future? I mean, why did we put?
That's the name of it in the ordinance, so I don't.
All right.
My question is, I know we're looking at reappointing people to boards, and on the Planning and Zoning Advisory Board, I'm looking at the attendance of one of our alternates. There was actually, he's got 5 excused absences in a row, and one of the meetings was, we were missing a permanent member, and neither of the alternates were there to vote in that meeting. And then I asked Grace if this person had been contacted to find out if he still wanted to serve, and he still wants to serve. But my question is, we have a lot of people that are looking to sit on our boards, and we encourage all of our alternates to come to these meetings. If this person's not going to come to the meeting, I'm really not comfortable putting him back on the board if he's not going to make the meetings. There's other people that want to sit on our boards that will come to the meetings and be part of what's going on in our city. So I'm just throwing that out there.
I think that's a tough one. If you said
I
he's
sit
gonna...
on the board. That's a very good board. I mean, Alex is a great chair to that board, and the board works extremely well. I've come to the meetings, and yeah, he does miss some, but for the most part, the board functions good.
Well, no, I'm not talking about Alex. I'm talking about Paul Marchese that we're talking about. I mean, he's been to 3 meetings and he's missed 5.
Grace, when you spoke with him, I mean, did he seem to truly express interest, or do you think he was just saying, I guess my question to him is maybe he misunderstood how important, I don't know, as an alternate, assuming that assumption, maybe the B was going to be there, and, I mean, how did you walk away from?
He didn't, there was no reason, when I first contacted, asking, about reappointment, there was no reasoning for the excused absences, so I'm not sure if it's been spoken to the secretary. And then eventually he just responded by email, just saying, yes, he wanted to be reappointed.
I would say we move forward with appointing the 2 other members, and we make another phone call to him and make sure that he understands that he has to come to these meetings, or at least, I mean, he can't miss 5 meetings in a row.
All right, I'll call him.
Let me, question here. When we call or they call us to say who's coming and not, how do we notify the alternate that he, for that meeting, needs to be there?
They all get the same agenda.
Same agenda, and they come whether they're going to be a voting member or not?
Yep. And we ask that they do that just out of caution, and then also so they understand what's going on. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
So I'll make a motion to appoint as a primary member Stephen Terry to a term ending 3/15/22, and Rebecca Van Meter to a primary term ending 3/15/22 on the Planning Advisory Board.
Okay. I have a motion by Councilman Montanaro.
I'll second that.
I have a second by Councilwoman Gibson. Further discussion on that reappointment?
And wait on the third one until somebody's spoken with him.
And, in fairness to Dom and your comments, it was Lorraine that really pushed hard to have this whole system set up so that we could discuss exactly what you discussed. I mean, that's the reason this is in here. She was just wanted it there, so, I mean, we're going by the original intent of that, Dom, so, thank you.
One other question to Grace. Do we have anybody that we've interviewed or in the wait on any applicants that want to be on the Plan and Advisory Board?
I believe the last time that we did, there were a couple of them that put in that they were interested.
Maybe we can look at them and see.
Mm-hmm.
All right, okay, thank you. Any further? Grace?
Councilwoman Rozicki?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brimer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Motion passes.
Just real quick, I know that we try to do this at the first meeting of the month, but would you mind if we put this on the next agenda, just so we don't have an absence in the, okay. So I just want to make sure we don't go for a month without those members. Okay, thank
And
you.
I know Frank wants to make this motion, but he can't, so I'm going to make the motion for you to reappoint, or to appoint Steve Osmer to the Sampson's Island Working Board.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Councilwoman Gibson. Any further discussion?
Probably should be.
I don't know, I'm starting to second guess that second.
Look at that smile. Grace?
Councilwoman Rozicki?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brimer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes.
And I'd also like to make a motion to appoint Lori Winnick to the Sampson Island Board also.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Vice Mayor Brimer. Further discussion? Grace?
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rozicki?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brimer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes.
And those are primary seats for both of those people.
Right. Thank you. Any further? Okay, moving on to agenda item 11, City Council minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the City Council regular meeting minutes for January 23rd, 2019, and I think that's it.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Gibson.
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Brimer. Further discussion? Grace?
Councilwoman Rozicki?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brimer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Before we close, Courtney, do you remember what you needed to say? You had another, just kind of,
It was a flash.
I can't remember.
okay, just want to make sure. Okay.
Oh, yes, I do. So I wanted to apologize to all of you because I think there's been some disruption in us getting events to you and notices to you. So I've come up with an idea, and I'm going to go through it with the staff, and we're going to implement it hopefully by Monday, on how to notify you when we have upcoming events and make sure that you're aware and who's going that we know of, and let you know which events we don't have somebody of council going, because that's sometimes done by me, my phone, like, hey, can you go? So I want to get a system down to make sure things don't fall through the cracks, because I understand that some have, and you found out through Facebook or, somebody let you know, and I know that's not the way that should be happening. So I wanted to apologize and make sure you know that we're going to get that taken care of, and we'll have something for you by Monday.
Thank you very much.
Sounds good.
Further business?
I just have one thing to say. Commander Barrios, I don't know, I guess I could talk to you about this. So I was told by several parents that there's been a lot of juvenile children vaping at the skate park. So vaping.
Vape, smoke.
Yeah. I didn't know if that's something you guys could kind of patrol. I know it's not, you'd have to get out of the car and walk around and take a look at it, but it seems to be.
We do actually go out there quite a bit, especially when we get calls. And we stop. The only thing is that, as you know, when they see a police car coming around the curve,
They go
in that
running.
wooded area,
Yeah.
they flee the area real quick. But our officers do get smart and actually get out way before and try to
Okay.
catch as much as we can. We get the parents involved, though, at that
Okay.
point.
Something about like a dumpster, and they've been going behind a dumpster and hiding back there, so just for,
I'll let the patrol know,
Yeah.
so this way they can keep
Okay.
going back there.
thanks.
Okay.
When we get the cameras, we can always let parents come in and look at it, too.
Yep.
Great. Any further business before council? Hearing none, thank you, everybody. Thank you, staff. Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you. I can't breathe.